Kyiv is more than the capital of Ukraine. It is a city that has repeatedly moved between greatness, destruction, obscurity, and renewal. Today, it is Ukraine's largest and wealthiest city, home to government institutions, universities, high-tech industries, transport networks, historical landmarks, and nearly 3 million people before 2022. But Kyiv's importance cannot be explained only by its modern population or skyline. Its story stretches back more than 1,000 years, into a time when rivers were trade highways and cities became powerful because they connected distant worlds. Kyiv has been a commercial center, a medieval capital, a religious learning hub, an imperial industrial city, a Soviet metropolis, and finally the capital of independent Ukraine. Few cities have carried so many identities while remaining so central to the region around them. The first key to Kyiv's history is geography. The city sits in north-central Ukraine and straddles both banks of the Dnieper River. That position mattered enormously in the ancient and medieval world. Before railways, highways, and air travel, rivers moved goods, people, armies, and ideas. A city on a major river could control crossings, support trade, collect tribute, and connect inland regions to broader commercial networks. The Dnieper linked northern lands with the Black Sea world and helped connect routes toward Constantinople. This made Kyiv a natural meeting point between north and south, forest and steppe, local settlement and international trade. Its location did not guarantee power forever, but it gave the city a recurring advantage. Whenever trade, administration, or military strategy mattered, Kyiv's position made it hard to ignore. Kyiv's name is traditionally connected to Kyi, one of 4 legendary founders of the city. Like many old cities, its earliest identity is wrapped in legend as well as evidence. The legend matters because it gives Kyiv a founding story, a sense that the city was not merely built but inherited from heroic beginnings. Historically, Kyiv probably existed as a commercial center as early as the 5th century. That makes it one of the oldest urban places in Eastern Europe. At first, it was not the capital of a modern state, because modern states did not yet exist there. It was a Slavic settlement in a changing frontier zone, shaped by trade, tribute, migration, and competing powers. Its early strength came from usefulness. Over time, usefulness became influence, and influence became political significance. In the early medieval period, Kyiv stood on the great trade route between Scandinavia and Constantinople. This route brought together very different worlds: northern warriors and traders, Slavic communities, steppe powers, and the wealthy Byzantine sphere to the south. Kyiv was at one point a tributary of the Khazars, showing that the city existed within a wider system of regional power before it became dominant itself. Then, in the mid-9th century, it was captured by the Varangians, often associated with Vikings from the north. This was a turning point. Under Varangian rule, Kyiv became the capital of Kievan Rus, the first East Slavic state. A settlement that had grown through trade now became a political center, shaping a state whose legacy would echo across Eastern Europe for centuries. As the capital of Kievan Rus, Kyiv became one of the defining cities of medieval Eastern Europe. A capital is not simply a place where rulers live. It is where authority is organized, where alliances are made, where tribute and commerce concentrate, and where religious and cultural models gain prestige. Kyiv's status gave it symbolic power far beyond its walls. The memory of Kievan Rus later became important to several peoples and political traditions, which is one reason Kyiv's past carries such weight. It is not just an old city with monuments. It is tied to origin stories about statehood, identity, and legitimacy. During this period, Kyiv stood near the center of a broad East Slavic world, and its name became connected with a foundational chapter in the region's history. Kyiv's medieval greatness did not last uninterrupted. In 1240, during the siege of Kyiv, the city was devastated and left in ruins. This destruction was a historical break, not a small setback. Kyiv lost much of the influence it had built as the center of Kievan Rus, and for centuries it did not hold the same level of power. This is one of the most important patterns in Kyiv's story. Its history is not a clean rise from small settlement to permanent capital. It is a cycle of prominence, collapse, and return. The ruins of 1240 show how vulnerable even a major city could be when trade routes, military power, and political structures changed. Yet the city did not disappear. Its memory survived, and that memory helped make later recoveries meaningful. By the 16th century, Kyiv had taken on a renewed role as a center of Eastern Orthodox learning. This was a different kind of importance from military or administrative power. A city can shape history not only by ruling territory, but by preserving knowledge, training religious leaders, and influencing culture. Kyiv's Orthodox institutions gave it intellectual and spiritual significance at a time when political authority in the region had shifted repeatedly. This mattered because religion often provided continuity where states and borders did not. The city's connection to Eastern Orthodox learning helped keep Kyiv relevant even after it had lost much of its medieval political dominance. It became a place where faith, scholarship, and historical memory reinforced each other, giving the city another foundation for future importance. Kyiv transformed again during the late 19th century, when the Russian Empire's Industrial Revolution expanded the city's role in industry, commerce, and administration. This was the age when factories, rail connections, expanding bureaucracy, and modern urban services reshaped older cities. Kyiv was no longer only a historic and religious center. It became a growing imperial city with new economic functions. Industrialization changed the structure of daily life. It drew workers, expanded neighborhoods, increased commerce, and linked the city more tightly to imperial markets and administration. This period helped prepare Kyiv for the 20th century. The same city that had once benefited from river trade now adapted to factories, offices, and modern infrastructure. Kyiv's strength was its ability to absorb new systems without losing its older layers of identity. The revolutionary period after 1917 returned Kyiv to the center of statehood. In 1918, the Ukrainian People's Republic declared independence from the Russian Republic, and Kyiv became the new republic's capital. This was a moment of enormous possibility, but also instability. The old imperial order had collapsed, and competing forces struggled over the future of Ukraine and the wider region. Kyiv's capital status showed its symbolic and practical importance, but the new political order did not remain secure. The Ukrainian Soviet and Polish Soviet wars followed, and Kyiv eventually became part of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. The city's meaning changed again, from imperial city to national capital, then into the Soviet framework. Through each shift, Kyiv remained the prize because it concentrated history, administration, population, and legitimacy. In 1934, Kyiv became the capital of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. That decision made the city central within Soviet Ukraine and shaped its development for decades. Soviet Kyiv was not simply a preserved historical city. It became an administrative, industrial, educational, and scientific center inside a planned system. Institutions expanded, infrastructure developed, and the city's role in industry and technology grew. Then World War II brought severe destruction. Once again, Kyiv experienced the recurring pattern of devastation followed by reconstruction. After the war, it recovered and became the third largest city in the Soviet Union. That scale matters. It shows that post-war Kyiv was not treated as peripheral. It was rebuilt as one of the major urban centers of a superpower, with housing, transport, industry, and public institutions designed for mass urban life. The Kyiv metro and the city's wider public transport system reflect Kyiv's modern urban scale. Metro systems are not built for small towns or symbolic capitals alone. They are built for dense, complex cities where millions of people need to move every day. Kyiv's transport network connected residential districts, workplaces, educational institutions, and administrative centers. Alongside transport, the city developed as a home for higher education, science, high-tech industries, and culture. This combination made Kyiv a city of both governance and expertise. Its universities and research sectors were especially tied to the Soviet-era emphasis on science and technology. Even after political systems changed, that institutional inheritance remained part of the city's identity. Kyiv was not only where decisions were made. It was also where people studied, engineered, administered, built, and imagined the country's future. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Kyiv entered another transformation. Ukraine became independent, and Kyiv remained the capital, but now of a sovereign state rather than a Soviet republic. This changed the city's political meaning completely. It also brought economic restructuring. Kyiv had to adapt from a Soviet-planned economy toward a market economy and electoral democracy. Some older industrial dependencies weakened, especially the armaments sector, and that hurt parts of the city's science and technology base. But services and finance grew, helping fund housing and urban infrastructure. This shift shows how modern Kyiv reinvented itself yet again. It moved from imperial and Soviet frameworks into the role of a national capital managing the institutions, pressures, and ambitions of independent Ukraine. Kyiv's story is powerful because it is layered. It is not only ancient, not only Soviet, not only Ukrainian, and not only modern. It is all of those things at once. Its geography on the Dnieper made it valuable. Its role in Kievan Rus made it historically foundational. Its destruction in 1240 made survival part of its identity. Its Orthodox learning tradition gave it cultural depth. Its imperial industrial growth and Soviet reconstruction made it a major metropolis. Its post-1991 development made it the political and economic center of independent Ukraine. To understand Kyiv is to understand a city that kept being remade by the forces around it, yet repeatedly returned to central importance. That is why Kyiv is not just a capital on a map. It is a capital of survival, memory, and reinvention. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.